Greetings, my beautiful lovelies. It's Emmy. How are you? It's great to see you and welcome back. Today I'm going to be testing a recipe that I saw on an episode of Extreme Cheapskates. If you're not familiar with this series, it follows people that are, as you could probably guess, extremely cheap. My youngest child loves watching the show and we often watch it together. And in one of the episodes, Stephanie made lasagna in the dishwasher. Now, I love watching this show because I love seeing how people come up with ways to save money, to save water, to save on their food budget, to save on food, to save all kinds of things, just to save on money. And I think it's very, very creative and interesting things that people come up with. Well, in this episode, Stephanie cooks a lasagna in her dishwasher. Now, I've heard of dishwasher cooking. It's kind of like sous vide cooking where you cook something that's sealed in a plastic bag in hot water. Water in sous vide is at a very specific temperature. You need a little sous vide machine and it cooks your food to a perfect doneness. A dishwasher is a little bit different because it uses detergent. You're not controlling the temperature. You're supposed to be cleaning your dishes, but in Stephanie's eyes, it's a way to do two things at once. I was initially a bit skeptical, but then when I saw her putting the lasagna together, I saw that she had boiled her noodles already, so that was my biggest worry. Would it get hot enough inside to actually cook and heat up the lasagna properly? And when I saw that the pasta noodles were going to be pre-cooked and the meat as well, I said, well, that probably will work, but will water get into the lasagna? That was my other question, right? Because how do you seal it so that that doesn't happen? Well, we're going to find out today because I'm going to be attempting to make the extreme cheapskate version of lasagna cooked in the dishwasher. Alrighty, lovelies, let's go ahead and get started. So at the supermarket, I chose the least expensive products that I could find on the shelves. So I've got my water to the boil and I'm going to generously salt it. And I'm going to boil my lasagna pasta. And at the supermarket, this was, it was like $1, was it like $1.50? $1.50 for a pound of pasta. Pretty good deal. And now I'm just gonna kind of press these into the water, set my timer for about 14 minutes to let these boil. So as I said, what I really enjoy about the show is the creativity and the invention that folks come up with to save money. And they are extreme. That's why it's called Extreme Cheapskates. Now, as it goes with many reality shows, I imagine that some of the stuff is contrived. But the lengths at which some people go to save some money, I'm not sure how contrived those are because it feels like some of these people are very, very dedicated to what it is that they do. We saw an episode where a couple showered together to save on water. They shared shampoo, so one would lather and then the other would use that shampoo also. I mean, very creative. So one bottle of shampoo would last months and months and months. I mean, right? I mean, if you're showering every day, like how much soap do you really need? And some of them are a bit of a stretch. We saw an episode where a lady would go to the sports store, it was a Play It Again sports store, and use their stationary bike in the store as her workout. So she would go there every day to use the stationary bike. I mean, cheeky, right? So many cheeky folks that I'm like, all right. But then later she found an exercise bike that she used to power the pump of her swimming pool. Inventive, right? But in practicality, did she really do that? I don't know. But in this episode, Stephanie is hosting a Super Bowl party. Her partner wants to have some friends over to watch the Super Bowl, and Stephanie has to feed them. And she says that's going to be expensive. I'm going to make lasagna. So she goes to the supermarket to make lasagna and get some ground meat. But then she says that's too expensive. So she also buys a bunch of fat. So she stretches the meat out with fat, which of course isn't great for you. But then I also got to thinking the fat melts away, so she drained a lot of it. Anyways, we're gonna just try it, right? Okay, so I'm gonna heat up my skillet and I've got a pound of ground beef and I've got an equal amount of beef fat. And we're just gonna render that down. So in the episode, she cooks it in a sauce pot and then kind of strains it to add with the ground meat. So I'm just going to cook it in the pot. Here we go. And this is something that my local supermarket said I had to make a special request for. And I had to do so in the morning when they do the butchering and ask them to some fat aside. So we're cooking this down, and to that, we're gonna add 1 pound of 93% lean beef. I actually like a little bit of fat in my beef. I usually get 80% beef. Whoa. All right, I'm gonna break this up. This wasn't really a cooking episode, and they didn't show how this was seasoned, so I'm gonna take liberties and season it myself. I'm gonna put some salt, pepper, Italian seasoning, garlic. It's just garlic powder. Good amount of that. And some onion powder. Good amount of that as well. So the bits of fat are still visible. Relative to the meat, I would say I have 2 parts of meat to 1 part fat, I would say. Maybe even a little less. So I'm gonna keep cooking this until the meat is completely browned and there's no more pink. Alrighty, my lovelies, the beef has been browned. I did add some more seasonings to it because it needed it. And I thought this would be really greasy, but it's actually not that greasy. I think it's because my beef was so lean. Here, let me show you. I thought there would be pools of grease and stuff, but I have chunks of fattage, but not pools of grease. Look at that. So I've got some jarred pasta sauce, and one of the other things that Stephanie does to save money is if there's any leftover sauce, pasta sauce on the plate after everyone's done eating, she puts it back into the jar. I see the logic in that, but from a food safety standpoint, it doesn't seem like such a great idea. So I'm going to assemble this as I saw her do it in the episode. She just layers it. I would myself put the sauce and the meat together, but she didn't do it that way. So anyways, I've got an 8x8 disposable brownie tray, and I'm going to layer my pasta. Put a layer of pasta in there. Scissors make this a little bit easier. Oh, this is kind of cursed. What do you do with that space? You make a skinny one. Like that, I guess. Then we're going to add a layer of our meat mixture. I'm using some pre-shredded cheese and sprinkle that on top. And then some sauce. So as we've watched more of these episodes, I believe my son's watched all the episodes, you can see how the behavior of saving money becomes compulsive. It's just everything has to be about saving money. I also know that this is the premise of the show as well. So the more extreme, the more entertainment. So I also understand that aspect as well. But it is pretty interesting what people come up with. All right, one long one like that, I think is the way to go. All right, we're gonna continue. I think it might be better to put the sauce down first. It's easier to smear on the pasta rather than on top of the meat. Like that. Just out of curiosity, I want to make a baked version of this as well, so we can compare the baked versus dishwasher cooked version. So we'll make a tiny one in a little pan here, and that way we can compare. Okay, so I don't want to make this too full because we are going to put this in the dishwasher, so I don't want it to be overflowing or anything. Okay, now it's time to seal these up. For the other one, it's going to be very simple. We're just going to cover it with foil. Bake at 350, 375 for about 45 minutes or so, an hour. That's typical for lasagna. And then for the dishwasher version, we're going to wrap it like heck. Ooh, just gonna make it, I think. So sealing it from the bottom. Trying to lift it over the top. And then I'm going to do it from the top to the bottom. See, just the cost in aluminum foil makes me think that I don't know how cost effective this is going to be. Well, you are washing your dishes, right? So it's just sort of like passive cooking. All right, so another layer of foil, and I'm going in the opposite direction. Trying to do everything I can to keep water out of the lasagna. All right, okay. That's as tight as it's gonna get. Now I'm gonna pop this. It feels really good, actually. This is heavy duty foil, by the way. So I'm gonna go pop this into my dishwasher now and cook it for an hour and a half, and or wash my dishes for an hour and a half, and we'll come back and we'll give this a taste. Meanwhile, we will bake this one and give this one a taste as well. All right, my lovelies, I'll see you in a little bit. Alrighty, my lovelies, I am back with my dishwasher lasagna along with the mini version that we did in the oven. Both of these are the same recipe in terms of the contents, just different cooking methods. This took quite a while to cook. I did it on the full cycle, so it was about 2 hours, and it is plenty warm. So let's see how it looks. All right, so we have 4 layers of foil here. Okay. The top layer is definitely wet. The second layer looks wet too. Okay, this actually looks dry. Okay, I think we're gonna be all right. Okay, so that was the 3rd layer, and here is the 4th. Okay, let's zoom in on this. Ready? Oh, there it is. I don't know if it got hot enough. The cheese isn't completely melted. What? That does not look good. I don't know, friends. Let's compare that with the oven version. Oh, and there is the oven version. That is definitely fully melted, and it's got a layer of steam. I think that's water, it's not grease. Okay, so I think we were successful in keeping the water out with 4 layers of heavy duty foil. In the episode of Extreme Cheapskates, Stephanie's boyfriend complained that the lasagna was not good and that it was watery, so water must have gotten in. But I think we were successful in that sense. No water in there. I think I do have to turn up the temperature on my water heater though, because it doesn't look like the cheese is fully melted. This is hot, and it was in there for 2 hours, but maybe it couldn't get through all the layers of foil. I don't know. Alrighty, let's go ahead and give it a cut. It's cutting fine. Let's see if we can get the center one out. Oh, there's the lasagna. It's steaming hot. Cheese is melted inside, so I think it was just the cheese on top that didn't get melty. Inside it looks all right. Looks okay. This is the oven version, and it looks a little better cooked in my opinion than the dishwasher version. This one looks a little limp. Alrighty, this will be my very first taste of lasagna cooked in a dishwasher. There it is. Let's see how it slices. It slices fine. Oh, and this is also made with a lot of beef fat to stretch the meat out. It's not all that saucy, but let's give it a taste. Itadakimasu. It's actually fine. The pasta is tender enough. The meat is fine. It's a little bit coarse, and it's surprisingly not greasy. I think Stephanie's version has more fat in it. But I did stretch it with a good amount of fat. It's okay. Ooh. I'm chewing on a grizzly little fat piece. Speaking of the devil, it is a little bit like cafeteria lasagna. It's very kind of middle of the road, very kind of plain, but pasta, sauce, ground meat, bit of cheese. It's lasagna-esque, you know? It's nothing fancy, no frills. It could be more flavorful. It could use a little bit more garlic, more onion, maybe just more sauce to make it a little more saucier. I think it needs a little bit more richness, maybe a layer of ricotta cheese or something in there to make it more rich and creamy, in addition to the layers of sauce and meat. But it's fine. It's not something I'd want to make again, but it's fine. Let's compare that with the baked version. So this was baked in the oven for 45 minutes at 375. This cooked in the dishwasher for 2 hours. But I was getting my dishes clean too, right? So there's that. Alrighty, let's see how this cuts. This has more of a crust on top. I think the oven cooked that a little bit more on top, even though we had it covered. Usually when I make lasagna, I take the foil off and let it broil a little bit to get the cheese to kind of get broily and crispy and gooey, but this time I didn't. I just kept everything covered. And let's give that a taste. So same ingredients, just different cooking method. Itadakimasu. I like this one much better. I feel like all the flavors are more connected. The pasta sauce has actually absorbed into the noodles, so they're more flavorful. More tender and less floppy. The other one was a bit flaccid and floppy in texture, while this one is tender and it has absorbed more of the sauce. The meat, again, does not taste greasy, but does have a little bit of gristle in it. Again, I think that was because I used lean ground beef along with the fat, so it kind of worked out in some way. Yeah, this is actually all right. Nothing fancy by any means, but it's okay. Not bad. This I don't even think needs a layer of ricotta at all. While I felt like the dishwasher version kind of needed something to hold everything together. But if you bake it, the pasta absorbs all of the sauce and gets plenty flavorful, and the layers are more cohesive and the flavors work. So yes, you can make a penny pinching version of lasagna, stretching it with a bit of fat, totally possible, but cook it in the oven instead. I think you'll get superior results. But if you are so inclined to cook in your dishwasher, make sure you seal, you encapsulate, or keep your food away from the dish water in your dishwasher so that it cooks properly. But I would never cook my lasagna again in the dishwasher. It's just not good for that kind of thing. Maybe poaching fish would be better. I'm not sure. I have seen that go around. Yeah. In summary, I do not recommend cooking your lasagna in the dishwasher. Perhaps something more delicate like fish would be possible with okay results. If you do, just make sure you wrap the food very tightly to prevent any dirty dishwater from getting into your food, or detergent. You don't want detergent in your food. But the recipe itself is fine if you cook it in the oven as you normally cook lasagna. It's just fine. It's lasagna, no frills, very, very simple and basic. Alrighty, my lovelies, now you and I both know what lasagna tastes like from that episode of Extreme Cheapskates. Alrighty. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that one. I hope you learned something. Please share this video with your friends. Follow me on social media. Like this video. Subscribe. And I shall see you in the next one. Toodaloo. Take care. Bye. I thought there might be a lasagna burp in there. But no. Another day. Baby one.